You have always wanted to make a terrarium, one of those beautiful, stunning, lush green terrariums. But it looks like this. You watch the pros videos and you followed all the steps, but in a month it looks like this, and you don't know why. Well, you are in luck, because in this video I'm telling you why and how to fix it. A lot of times your terrarium might look bad because of the jar itself. If you can, don't pick plastic because it warps. And also, yeah, it doesn't look as good as glass does, not nearly as clean. If you can, also really try to get a lid. If you cannot, and you just really like a jar without one, you should put some plastic wrap over the top, and that seals pretty good. Or you could use a rubber band around that if you like that better. But if you can, try to use a lid. Also, another thing I've had a lot of problems with is you can definitely see this glass is not very high quality. It's super warped and it's not very good. Now I'm going to move on to actual terrarium tips. I'm going to use this glass fishbowl for this. It does not have a lid, so I'm using the plastic wrap over the top, and it seals very good. Okay, so the first thing you need with most terrariums is the drainage layer. This can be pebbles of any kind, really. You just don't want too big or super fine sand. If you have a really small terrarium, this is the smallest I would do for this. You don't need it because there's not going to be that much water. This is for if water pools up in the terrarium, it can go down into just rocks and won't rot anything away in the soil. You don't want this layer too thin, and you want it pretty flat the whole way through. A lot of the time you will put a mesh over the top of the rocks, the pebbles in there, but you don't need it for a small one because the soil will just sit on top of it. The mesh is for not letting soil get through it mix with each other, but with a small terrarium, again, you don't need it. With your substrate, a lot of people use potting soil, but do not do this unless it's organic or something like that. Usually I stay away from it anyway because it has a lot of things in it that are pesticides, things like that will definitely kill things in your terrarium. So this is a mix of cocoa fiber and topsoil. You can organic's probably the best from the store. Yeah, it works really well in my opinion. You can slope it up in the back to make it look more textured. Okay, and make sure you're spraying this constantly, but do not overwater. That's the one thing. If you have to do anything, underwater a little bit until the plants look malnourished or something. But you want the soil to be moist or damp, not wet. Another thing people are constantly skipping is rocks. You can always have more rocks in your terrarium, but make sure they're not too big or too small. The bigger rocks you want to put in the back, and the smaller ones toward the front, just to add a sense of depth. Also, it's very good to constantly be rearranging the rocks, but make sure you have them in a position that you're going to keep them in, a position that you really like before you start putting in the other stuff. Because once you put in the plants and moss, you could mess it up if you keep moving the rocks. Another thing you can see is the glass is dirty on this. You always want to make sure it's clean. So just spray it down, wipe it beforehand. If you can't get it off, use some vinegar spray before anything's in there, and then wash it out with water afterwards to make sure there's no more vinegar in it. Now you can add your sticks if you want. You don't absolutely need them, but I feel it always looks better with them in there. Just find some cool looking ones outside, some sort of wood or sticks or things, break them up, just put them in there, however you like. You just want to make sure you don't overcrowd the terrarium with sticks, because although it might look cool in your imagination, it will be really hard to plant things afterward. So just keep that in mind. Now that the hardscape is done, that's what we've done so far, I'm moving on to plants. The plant you can never have enough of is moss. You always want moss in your terrarium. I propagated this. You can watch some videos I made about that. You'll see the link up here. Yeah, I let this sit in there for a while. It grew by itself. It always looks better if you use multiple kinds, not just all one kind, because, adds a lot of variety. Another thing I see a lot of people do is they don't space out their mosses. You don't want the entire floor covered with moss. It's just not natural. Also, make sure to put clumps of it in different areas, not all right next to each other. Just makes it look a lot more like an actual forest floor. There we go. Put the taller mosses in the back. It looks pretty good like that. Now I'm adding the actual plants, the leafed plants. I've got Fittonia, some sort of pothos, and I'm not sure what the smaller one is, but it's something similar. I'm going to add the pothos first. It's going in the back. It's sort of a viney plant, so I'll probably have to trim it a little bit when it grows a little bigger. Notice how when I cut it off, I left a little nub there. That's one of the smaller roots. Never just cut a plant without making sure there's a little bit of those in there, because if there's not, it won't root nearly as fast. So yeah, plant this in the back. Now for the Fittonia. Looks a lot better in real life, but the veins are pretty bright pink. This should grow kind of upright, but I'll have to trim that one quite a bit too once it starts growing. And here's the third plant going on the edge here. My plan is to make sort of a path in the middle. That's why I left a patch bare. I'm going to use some sand, and you'll see in a minute. It's looking pretty good so far, though. Here's the sand. Make sure if you're using something like this, it's always washed. That's another thing. Make sure all your materials are washed very well. If you can, put them in a culture or a bin beforehand, and so everything, you can see if there's any parasites or bugs or anything in there beforehand. Spraying the plants again. Got a little bit of sand on the rock, so I just spray it with water to get it to wash off. And that's pretty much the finish of the terrarium. There's not a lot more you can do unless add more plants and moss, sticks on top of the moss, things like that. Make it look like fresh fallen logs, stuff like that. But I'm putting the top on. If you want to make it not as rainforesty of a terrarium, you can poke some holes in the top. Just don't make them too big or it'll dry way too fast. Clean the glass one more time before you put it where it's gonna go. So thank you for watching. If you like this video, please don't forget to subscribe and comment if you want to see something specific.